Do you understand that we're in the middle of a surge right now? Let me start with the numbers. Last week, I think, my notes say 3,800, but I think it was more like 4,000 people that we got last week, which is kind of insane when you think about what these numbers are.
The numbers include 14 buses arriving in one night, a record since the crisis began.
I've been in New York City my entire life. In September of this year, I will be 40 years old. I do not want to be too dramatic when I say this, but New York City is falling into a deep crisis for many reasons. The migrant crisis is just another obstacle, another boulder to shoulder.
Police say a ringleader of the group has been recruiting migrants who recently arrived in the city to do his dirty work. Police also believe the group is responsible for committing violent crimes.
They're essentially ghost criminals. No criminal history, no photos, no cell phone, no social media. Sometimes we're even unclear on a name or a date of birth. And on top of that, these operations are extremely sophisticated.
And just days later, police say a 15-year-old migrant shot a woman inside JD Sports in Times Square, then allegedly fired at officers who were chasing him.
While we all try to figure out how to deal with the housing crisis, we're still dealing with so many issues in New York City. Mayor realized that things are really bad. And I think things are going to get worse over the next couple of months, and I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why. And we're going to talk about what the New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, is trying to do to solve this crisis. Let's get into it. One of the biggest reasons why I think this is going to get worse, especially over the next couple of months, summer is coming very soon. Crime just increases just to the fact that it's warm outside. There's tons of reports right now with migrants involved in organized crime.
They brutally attacked a New York City police officer and a lieutenant. Our criminal justice system is upside down. It fails every day.
Get them all and send them back. You don't touch our police officers. You don't touch anybody.
Democratic policies at City Hall have made this much more difficult for our law enforcement than it needs to be.
As a citywide robbery patterns operation, where people are stealing phones, hacking into the phones, taking all the money away, and then moving the cell phones to a different part of the world. Basically, you're on the phone, they grab it, and they drive away.
They walked across the border for a better life, but now they are walking out in handcuffs after police say their American dream was to commit crime. How did these migrants end up on the wrong side of the law? Police say it did not happen overnight and that they are organized criminals accused of being a part of a citywide robbery pattern.
Migrants preying on vulnerable New Yorkers in New York City. Over 60 victims committing crimes as robberies, grand larcenies, purse snatches.
Police say a ringleader of the group has been recruiting migrants who recently arrived in the city to do his dirty work.
Everyone's outside during the summer. A lot of people visit from across the world, come into New York City. It's already bad, and it's probably going to get a lot worse. There are many places in New York City that is not safe to be around. Things have got worse due to the pandemic. There's been a lot of cuts with policing, and there are many police officers that are retiring and leaving the force. So we already had that financial crunch, but now you have law enforcement not as strong as they can be because right now there's a strain on all of our resources. The second reason, the shelter system is already overburdened. They don't have enough for the people we already have. With the record number of migrants arriving to the city, shelters are already accommodating 68,000 people. The system is already strained. The summer months might see an increase, further exacerbating the issue and potentially leading to inadequate living conditions and increased tensions within the communities. People who are here are pissed off. They're saying, what happened to the resources for me? I'm homeless, or I'm dealing with some situations. They do not like the fact that other people are coming and getting the kind of resources that they wish they could have gotten. And this is probably the worst reason, at least the one that irritates me the most. This has become political. Right now, this is a presidential election year. Immigration and how cities manage migrant crisis has become the hot butt issue everyone's talking about. I'm talking about it. There's already political division over policy, and all it does is hurt the people who are living here and even the migrants that come in. Because at this point, there are people who are using the migrants as a political football, a political tool to get elected. And this, it doesn't really help anyone except the people who are trying to gain power in this country. Fourth reason, obviously the economic strain. We can't afford all these people who are coming in here. And at this point, I think we all know that.
What we found were a lot of desperate people, actually, many of them from West Africa who did not have any work papers, who had just arrived, who had no idea how the system worked. And then we also found a whole system in which people were using other people's social security numbers in order to get the documentation they needed to work as DoorDash drivers and Uber Eats drivers. So it was kind of this like chaotic situation. You even had, which was amazing in Brooklyn, outside of an intake center and an enrollment center for the New York City ID card, you even had a group of migrants charging other recently arrived migrants for a space. And we have the situation where because people are working in this underground economy, they're not paying taxes, they're not getting the benefit of paying taxes.
The financial burden of providing shelter, health care, and other essential services to an increased number of migrants is going to strain the city's budget. The city budget that already has to take several cuts. The mayor's already talked about this. Cuts to things that we actually need, like law enforcement. This may lead to more cuts in other areas or increased taxes, affecting all New Yorkers, city and state, potentially leading to public discontent.
At Island, a large group of residents are blocking a bus that's carrying migrants. This is happening on Father Capodanno Boulevard and Midland Avenue in Midland Beach. Several police units were called in to respond to the crowds blocking traffic.
The buses that arrived overnight at Port Authority, part of a new uptick that has even those in charge struggling to keep track of how many asylum seekers arrived in the past week.
And one thing about New Yorkers, we like to really express how annoyed we are. I mean, I guess I'm doing it in this situation. But the problem is that there's a lot to complain about right now. The fifth one, I think, is just community relations within themselves. So situations involving migrants and these high-profile crimes, or even the protests against migrant shelters, can lead to negative perceptions and tensions between migrants and long-term New Yorkers. This can go different ways, especially if there's some kind of situation that gets national or viral, can have communities fighting each other over the situation that we're having here. It's probably going to happen because, again, the strain on the budget is significant for people to be pissed off, especially if you're trying to find somewhere to live. This article came out 6 days ago. New York City's housing crunch is the worst it has been in over 50 years. Only 1.4% of the city's rentals were available in 2023. There's a lot of people in New York City. 8 million people here. So according to new data, the lowest portion since 1968. Not good. It was the lowest vacancy rate since 1968 and shows how home construction lags behind the demand for people who want to live in the city. The data is clear, the mayor says. The demand to live in our city is far outpacing our ability to build housing. And when things get strained, people start to act out. So I definitely predict that you guys will see more crazy things happening in New York City, especially when it comes to the migrant crisis. But what is the mayor doing? How is he trying to fix this issue? Can he fix this issue? How is he going to pay for everything? So I had this interview a couple of days ago, and he talked about a few things. He went to Albany, obviously to New York State. Also, the mayor addressed the financial burden of the migrant crisis on the city, requesting, obviously, the state to cover half the expenses. He stressed the need for a collective effort from lawmakers and the importance of the federal support, given the legislation that mandates cost sharing. So the mayor is saying, listen, I know a lot of this is happening in New York City. We have 8 million people here, a lot of money here. But the entire state is going to have to jump in and help pay half that bill.
Have you spoken to the governor since making the ask?
Yes, we sat down before leaving. Actually, that was the last meeting, I believe, before I left Albany. We had a good conversation, going over all the things that we needed. She has been extremely understanding of what she presented in her budget when it comes down to New York City.
So do you think you'll get that half?
Oh, we're going to try.
Yeah.
You know, my role is to get up there and try.
Right. That's the whole point of the day.
So imagine you live in Albany or you live in Syracuse or something like that, Buffalo. All the way up there, the migrant crisis, you may not even notice it yet. Well, don't worry. You'll be helping pay for it, obviously, if he's able to get that kind of money. Now, he also talks about the sanctuary city status. I know a lot of people are thinking, like, is it possible just to change it or at least get rid of it if it's just not working? What if the mayors realize this is a crisis? We got to figure this out. Can I change it?
This whole topic now about sanctuary city and whether or not you have the authority as the mayor to repeal the sanctuary city status. What do you say to that?
I don't have a goal of repealing sanctuary city, and I want to be clear on that. I have a goal of repealing any aspect where people are participating in a criminal behavior, violent criminal acts, they should not stay in our city. They should not be here when you're living off the benevolence of New Yorkers and tax dollars, and you are committing crimes like what we saw in New York, in Times Square.
Just to be clear, you don't want to repeal sanctuary city status overall?
No, I don't. No, I don't. And I don't have, from our analysis, we don't have the authority to appeal it if we want to.
The mayor clarified that he doesn't intend to repeal New York City's sanctuary city status, but emphasized that individuals involved in violent crimes should not be allowed to stay in the city. It's amazing he has to say that. It's amazing that we all have to really say that, as if we thought, if you came here and you committed a crime, then you probably should not be here. We already have enough criminals here. But do we need more? The idea that we have to say that as if it's some kind of profound statement, it shows exactly where we are right. He believes that city councils should address any changes to the sanctuary city's laws. At this point, I'll be surprised if they change anything. And the mayor also talked about the lack of resources coming from Washington, D.C., despite legislation that suggests cost sharing among federal, state, and city governments. He expressed hope that receiving the necessary funds, but acknowledged the challenges in securing them. That's the problem with this whole politics thing. Figuring out what works, what doesn't. Now this mayor obviously is in a crisis mode trying to find some money, and the state and the federal government seems to be slowing down because everything is slowing down. Things aren't great. So the mayor conveyed a sense of urgency and concern regarding the migrant crisis, indicating that it poses a significant challenge to New York City's resources and infrastructure. He stressed the importance of a collaborative approach, basically saying, please help, I need help, this is terrible, to involve in the state and federal levels to effectively manage this situation. Are things going to get better anytime soon? No, I don't think so. That's not going to happen at all. I think that we'll see more of this situation. Hopefully, law enforcement can kind of get a grip on the migrant gangs that's coming in at this point, because we already have enough of our own gangs. We don't need more gangs. Like, get those gangs out of there. But once he saw the migrant crisis in Texas and Arizona, and seeing how stressed those areas were, knowing that New York City is a sanctuary city, he should have had a plan. He should have had a way to figure out how to handle it, knowing how expensive it is to live here, and realizing now that there's going to be cuts to a lot of resources that help New Yorkers. I really don't know how he's going to be able to fix this. We'll see in the next couple of weeks. But let me know, put in the comments below. If you're in New York City, put in the comments below. I want to talk to people who live in New York City. I'm in Brooklyn, but it's always great to kind of have more communication about, how are you feeling with this. And also, if you're not here, no problem. I'm sure you watch a lot of the stuff that's happening here. What's your opinion? Let me know. Put in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. I'll see you guys in the next video.